Good morning, everybody. You guys all awake? Who was at the bash last night?
That doesn't sound awake.
Yeah, can we get awake? Because it's day 3. Come on. We need some day 3 power. So who was at the bash last night? Anyone? Guys. Okay, we were at the bash last night, so please bear with us if the questions sound a little fuzzy. Yeah, hi. Can you tell, though, that we don't have a moderator this morning? Normally someone is right here introducing the panel. She was at the bash last night. No, I'm kidding. She's the one and only stage manager and manager of many other things as well, LuAnn. LuAnn Wood, who is not here today because she is watching her son speak at KBIS for the first time ever. So she's a very proud mama, so we forgave her for that, so I'm going to self-introduce if you don't mind. I'm Veronika Miller, CEO of Modenus Media and founder of Designhounds. I've just hugged goodbye most of my Designhounds. One's sitting in the middle right here, still here, and the other one is sort of an honor Designhound. You're always part of the gang. And everybody left excitedly, ready to go home, and they're all sitting at the airport now. So you guys are in a lot better shape. And today we will be talking, and you have really kind of a privilege to be in the room with 4 of the great minds in design business. And having access to these ladies, even just one of them at any given time, is a pretty cool thing. So one thing that I really want to stress, we have a 15-minute Q&A at 10:15. Yes. Please use that. So think about your questions that you have. There are no dumb questions. Now's a great time to ask that. And I would like for you ladies to introduce yourselves. LuAnn, Veronika, oh my God, Claire, and Kimberley. Take it away, LuAnn.
Okay, well, Veronika, thank you so much for including me in this illustrious panel. I'm so thrilled to be here with you and these ladies and all of you in the audience. My name is LuAnn Nigara. I am the host of the podcast, A Well-Designed Business. Yay! And I am also the co-owner of WindowWorks, and we are a custom window treatment and awning specialty retailer in New Jersey. So looking forward to this morning.
Hi guys, I'm Veronica Solomon, and I'm so happy to be here with you all. I'm an interior designer at Casa Vilora Interiors is the name of my company. I'm also a design business mentor, and I'm just happy to be here to kind of talk about the business of design that we all love.
Morning, everyone. My name's Claire Jefford, and I am just outside Toronto, which is just as cold as it is here, unfortunately. And my company is Claire Jefford. I am an interior decorator, business strategist, and I like doing video. And so we're here to talk a little bit about today with Business of Design and this lovely lady.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kimberley Seldon. I am an interior designer. I've been working full-time as an interior designer since 1991, and that's how I make a living. And then in 2004, we launched businessofdesign.com, so I could provide therapy to myself in regards to how to project manage and how to deal with clients and trades and all that kind of stuff. So, and some of you know Business of Design, the podcast as well. And in fact, all 3 of these beautiful ladies have been on the podcast, but Veronika, we haven't had you yet. What up with that?
I'm elusive. You can't have me.
I can attest to that. She's been on my schedule 3 times, I think, and each time we've rescheduled.
Yes, I have a marketing team that says, this isn't working. You can't hide. This is not how that works. But I will. I promise you, and then we'll have good stuff to talk about. And today we also have good stuff to talk about. And to me, as having been a designer myself in the past, I stopped doing that and then moved my way into marketing. And now what I do primarily is really look for connections between brands, trade shows, and design professionals. So I don't work with designers as opposed to these 4 ladies, but I'm coming at it from the other side. What I am, however, very aware of are some of the challenges that are out there in the industry. For one, this sort of very big overarching challenge that you face every single day of left brain, right brain. You have to run a business, you have to think about nuts and bolts kinds of stuff, and you have to somehow remain creative and want to get up in the morning and face it again. There are many, many sides, and anybody that comes out of design school and says, I just wanted to be a designer because it's so much fun, needs to go find another job. right? So it's tough. It's a hard business. And not just that. So that's already right there, right? That problem of any creative industry, how to parse those two sides of your head and or find a way to hire that out or deal with it in one way or another. But the other half of the equation that we're facing now is how is design business being restructured, reformulated in the decade that we're about to enter. We have online sales. We have so many business mergers. There's so much going on right now. You know, my client bought the stuff online, blah, 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 blah. How do we deal with that? So the next decade, if you guys have your looking glass out for a second, what are you seeing changing? What are you seeing staying the same? And where do designers need to be headed?
Well, I feel like you have two ways to look at this. One is you can be an interior designer that strives for the luxury market, and the luxury market is always going to want your services. If you place value on what you do and how you do it rather than the product and the commodity that you bring to them, you are going to sail into the next decade just fine. But you have to be very clear on what your value and your services are. And the other way to do it is, quite frankly, is to have services that are available on your website that can be purchased while you sleep online. So there's two different ways to look at this, and I'm sure all of us here are going to have 16,000 ideas on executing either of those.
Get ready to write. There's 16,000 ideas coming your way.
I think regardless of the changes, and we know there are a lot of changes with the online stuff, as Veronica mentioned, but as long as you bring that value and you package it up in a way where your clients see that value, they have no reason to really go outside of what you bring to them. You go into their homes and you get them to understand that, listen, I'm here for you, I'm advocating for you, I'm going to take care of all the messy things that happens behind the scenes, and you pay me for this. And then you don't have to worry so much about the online shopping and clients going to find cheaper products online because they will have no reason to do that.
Yeah, and just piggybacking off of what Veronica and LuAnn said is really doing it through video as well, like putting yourself out there on social media, showing the process, not just showing the pretty photos, because to get to that pretty photo took a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, sometimes tears. So it's really important that your client needs to understand how is it that you are benefiting them, what is the value that you're bringing to the service, to their project, and not just the pretty picture at the end of the day. So, and what seems really simple to us is actually not to the client. It's actually quite complicated, and choosing a paint color is not easy, or doing the managing of the renovation, or picking the right fabric for that window treatment. It seems fun, but there's a lot of thought process that goes in behind it. If you get it wrong, it's not an inexpensive mistake to make.
Ditto everything the three previous panelists said. I would also say we have going for us the fact that there is a thriving and healthy middle class. So in addition to what you consider to be that luxury client, the client who has 4 homes and will just use you and never shows up to a meeting, just says do whatever you want and sends a check. I love those clients. But there's a big, meaty upper middle class who, let's be honest, we're kind of lazy. They don't want to do it. They're working, they belong to charities, they have husbands, they have kids, they don't want to do it. And so one of the things I think that's important to think about is, Veronica mentioned us being in a creative industry. I actually think the creative part is secondary to the business part. You're a business provider. It's 80% business, 20% creative. And as long as you're speaking to that 80% business, which is what Claire is referring to by showing them the real process, not the HGTV, ain't this pretty, ooh, I'm done in an hour process, but the real process, right? You're going to have a customer for life who's never going to go anywhere else. And let everybody shop online if they want to. Have fun, knock yourself out.
Yeah, what she said. Well, I think, I feel like one thing that did happen, just to touch on that online thing quickly, and then we'll put it to bed where it belongs, really, because there's so many homes available out there. But it has made, for better and for worse, the clients more savvy. They have become more design aware. I think that middle class that used to maybe just not even consider design as an option for themselves, even with the dawn of Pottery Barn and restoration hardware, suddenly they felt that like they had access to design. And so does that help the designer? find new clients and establish a rapport with the client, or do you find it more detrimental that you have people with their own Instagram presence, with their own Pinterest, with their own sort of idea that may not necessarily be executable or may not even be right for them?
We can hate on HGTV sometimes. I'm one of them. But honestly, they did bring awareness to the mass market about interior design. And a lot of people who didn't think about interior design before are pursuing interior designers and bringing them into some capacity. For me, I love to capture the market that does not necessarily have the money to pay me the full service fees and offer them a different level of service, where I say, here's a design plan, here are some things you can buy to make your home beautiful, go ahead and do it yourself. So I think the awareness that the online shoppers and things brings to the market is still, you could still profit from that.
Can I just say that I think too, like with that is also like the 3D designs that they show on HGTV a lot. Like we can all do those 3D designs, or you can outsource them. There's a lot of great resources out there for people that do that. But that shows people aren't visual, so they want to be able to see what is your space going to look like before you actually execute on this project. And now you can upload fabrics, you can upload artwork, rugs, anything that you find, paint colors. So I think that's really big as well. And and I think taking advantage of being when you're online, if they're sure we've all had clients. I know you're in California as well as Toronto, Kimberly. But I've had people contact me, overseas, and they've watched a YouTube channel or on Pinterest, and then I'll do e-design. It's not my favorite, but I do offer it, as a service. So seeing that coming more over the next 10 years as well.
I know we're going to talk about branding as well, but some of this is sort of self-selecting, right? People will find their tribe. Like, if you want to drive a Ford, you're going to go to a Ford dealer. If you want to drive a Mercedes, you're going to go to a Mercedes dealership. So I think my job is to put myself in the lane where my clients are. And my clients drive Mercedes. And one of the ways that I know that, because they drive Mercedes, that's like, you can kind of see what's in the driveway, right? But if you want a really good question, when you're doing that intake phone call and you're trying to figure out, is this my client or is this not my client? One of the questions we ask them, which just seems completely off the cuff, is this your primary residence? And then they say one of two things. Well, yeah, it's my only home. Great. Nothing wrong with that customer. Or they say this. Well, yeah, but we have a place in Florida and we also have a house in the south of France. Hello. I'm on my way, right? So it's a little self-selecting if you do your job by putting yourself out there in a very clear way about what tribe you're serving. Serve anybody you want. They're all good.
I want to just kind of reel the conversation back in because we're kind of going exactly to the place where we want to go. But I want to start with marketing and branding, and how do you identify who you are and what you do, particularly in this very, very busy industry. A lot of people are kind of still in the market. A lot of people feel like they are designers, but maybe they're not. And so potential clients are confronted with many, many options. How are you very, very clear in terms of who you are, who you serve, what your message is, which niche you fit into if that applies to you? How do you help people understand how they need to tee that up?
Well,
Video.
Okay. I think it depends on where you are in your journey as a business person. If you're in your first 1, 3, 5 years, you may still be struggling with that, and that's okay. So, right, you're feeling that pain, right? And the thing about that is to understand that when you look at business owners like us that have been here, Kimberly and myself going on 3 decades. These guys I don't think are quite that long. They look too young for that. It doesn't happen always in the first couple of years. Now, you have a lot more information and tools and advice available to you, because I don't know, Kimberly, did anybody talk to you about branding in the first 5, 10 years of your business?
No, we never thought of ourselves as a brand.
No. You just got up every morning and you went to work and you made it happen, okay? So, but social media has made that different, and websites have made that different, because when you came to us, I could just tell you who I was and what my values as a business person were. So now we're looking to learn that and know it before we meet you. We're looking to find it on your website. So if you're struggling the first 3 to 5 years, you've got to keep saying to yourself, what are my favorite clients? What are the projects that I've liked working on the best? Sometimes you'll find, like Claire, she does not want to do the soup to nuts. So that maybe she found that out the first time she did a soup to nuts. Maybe she found it out the 5th time. When
18 months.
Yeah,
18 months.
when she just went, I don't want to do it. So ask yourself, I'm the designer that. What comes to your mind? Then ask yourself, what are the clients that I love working on? What are the types of projects? Just constantly be aware and ask. Don't just head down, run a million miles a minute. Once a week, sit up and take stock and ask yourself these questions and figure it out along the way, right?
And not be afraid to change, right?
No, absolutely. Grow and change.
It's important to know who you are as well. I run my business with heart. I mean, I genuinely believe that if somebody comes to me and they have the right expectations of what their budget can allow, they have the right expectations of how the process is going to go working with me, I can work with pretty much anybody. So you can have a $10,000 budget, you can have a $400,000 budget. So that is my lane. I like to stay in that lane where it's a variety, it's different clients that I'm working with. It's not for everybody, because yes, I still do the e-designs and I enjoy doing them just as much as I enjoy sourcing the fabulous furnishings from High Point and wherever. So it's important though that you know what you enjoy doing and know who you want to serve and serve it with heart. That to me is the core of what I do.
And you do it so well. You do. And I think also, in terms of, you have to make sure that you've got your trades in place, make sure that you've got your suppliers, and make sure that those are people who are also, because they're an extension of you, so they're representing you as well. So make sure you know what the deal is that you have with your contractor or your tiler or your plumber, and make sure that they're speaking your same language when they're with your clients and they're not, doing something that is out of what you would, like to be represented as, and that's where the open communication comes in, and maybe finding you may have a few different contractors. You don't want to just pigeonhole yourself to one contractor or a couple of suppliers. So I think that's really important too, to think about those people who are with you a lot, who you're collaborating with, and they're an extension of your brand.
And your brand is also your hourly rate. And I say this all the time. Everybody knows the difference between a Mercedes and a Toyota. So don't tell me you want luxury clients, and then when I ask you what your hourly rate is, you say $75 an hour, because I am a luxury client. I'm not hiring you. You frighten me. If I want a facelift, which I do, by the way, I'm going to the most expensive doctor there is, because I'm not going to take a chance, right? So raise your rate. Your rates are too low. I don't even know what your rate is, but I already know it's too low. Everybody raise your rates. And then you can choose, like Veronica said, whatever projects you want, but raise your rate if you want to have an option versus being that high volume, turn them over as fast as you can variety, right?
What about as a young designer? If you're kind of jumping into the business, maybe you've been a couple of years or you've worked for somebody else, now you're out on your own. Is that already the point where you guys would say, find your place, know who you are, don't take every job, or are you kind of going, no, please, you need a new carpet, let's do it. What do you guys think?
The faster you can hit your mark, the better. Yeah. And what do you have to risk by starting out too high? Like nothing. But you start too low, and then you take these baby steps, and you wake up 30 years later, and you're still not making any money. Like, start high and figure it out.
So I think on the other end of that, I think you do have to deal with a little bit of the crappy clients sometimes to get that experience in the beginning and figure out, what it is that didn't go well. Why didn't it go well? I mean, the sooner you can get your processes in place, which we're all huge on, process. But I think that sometimes it takes when I first started, I had a service I called As and When You Need Me. And it was literally as and when you need me. Do you need, not totally. I wasn't available at 2 a.m. or, and it was for design services only. Let's get that clear. But, it was literally like, do you need a carpet runner? And, you need some pictures for your living room. Okay, that's great. Let's start there, because I have no experience and I want to start, at the bottom. But if I get a nice project, you have to have those trades in place. You have to have your processes in place. You can't start with a major, contract if you don't have everything else in place already.
I believe it's important to set a standard from the very beginning. You should know what you won't put up with. or package up your service in a way where it says, okay, I will, like kind of what Claire mentioned, I'll do this service, but this is what's included in it, and you know what your limits are, so you're not getting called at 2 a.m. for whatever reason. So it's important to set those standards right away and know the kind of clients that you can work with and set those expectations from the very beginning.
Can I just go back to one thing on your original question in there was about the brand and how do you define that? And I just want to touch back to what Veronica's answer was. In that struggle to figure out your brand, sometimes we're all looking for this identifier. And the thing about it is if you heard Veronica's answer, she is servicing the e-design market, she is servicing a client with a $10,000 budget, and she is servicing a client with a $400,000 budget. That's not normal, that's not typical. Usually you're swimming in one lane or the other, like Kimberley's firm is, obviously in the lane with the South of France homes and so forth. But the thing is, understand it, hear what Veronica said. She works and leads from the heart. And so for Veronica, that's real. Right? In other words, she's actually connecting with each of her clients on that level. So she doesn't care if her client has a $10,000 budget or a $400,000, and that's her brand in there. So you're not always looking for this crazy identifier as a brand. But by the way, you can't copy that either, because you can't genuinely be happy to help a $10,000 client and a $400,000 if you aren't really, truly happy to do it. But Veronica finds something in every client to appreciate and latch onto and hold onto, and she communicates that. And that's why she's successful at all different levels of design. So don't look for the big, big thing in the back corner. Look for something right in here that's so real for you.
What about niching? Do you find it's still okay to just be an interior designer, kitchen, bath designer, combination of the two? Or is going forward, especially looking again at that next decade, does it make sense to niche and find a specific space?
I'm not a marketing expert, but every marketing expert out there says that it makes sense to find a niche and stick to that one niche. And I would say to an extent, Veronica might be an exception, but Claire's not really an exception to that rule. She knows who her clients are. She's very targeted about what that is. I'm sure LuAnn is not an exception to that rule. And I'm a niche designer for sure. Like if kitchens and baths are your thing, then I think you need to further niche it to luxury kitchens and baths or mid-range, whatever. But yeah, I would say yeah.
I think so. So going back into the marketing area, we kind of have a sense of who we are. Now, how do we tell people who we are? Importance of social media in the next decade. What's your looking glass there? Where should people hone in? What will make sense? What is currently happening that might kind of fizzle out that you're thinking? What's going to happen there?
I think it's video. I'll always say
That's
that.
the answer to everything you ask her, by the way.
It really is. Well, because it's just so huge. But I think also it depends where your clients are finding you. You're not going to be different on every platform. The way that you're going to do a video may be a little bit different in terms of editing and all the background scene. But if don't try to be everywhere. If you are getting no clients through Instagram, maybe Facebook is your thing. Maybe people are finding you through YouTube. But being able to again just communicate. Like I can't tell you how many times I go to a client's home. I'm knocking on the door and they're hugging me. At least like the trust is already there because we've already broken down those barriers. They've watched the videos. They've seen what I've done. They feel like they can connect to me. And the amount of times that I'll say to someone, "Oh, I'm going to send you a few videos," and the husband's like, "My wife's already watched them all. Don't worry about it. That's why we're hiring you." So for me, that's just key, and also not overthinking it. Like we all overthink it. I go on at 6:30 every morning, except for this week, Monday to Friday. On Instagram, and there's filters. There's these beautiful thing called filters, and they're amazing, and so you can. But it depends it depends. You got to stay on brand. You got to figure out what your story is. But again, it's not overthinking it. And a lot of times people will say to me, "I really want to do video, but I don't look good, or I don't know what to say." You literally in your own studio, you have fabric books. You have something, I know you do, that you could pull out and start talking about. This fabric is good for window drapery. This fabric is great for upholstery. Don't use this for upholstery, and it can just be a 2-minute video. It doesn't have to be, an hour.
When you say Instagram, is Instagram stories for you mostly, or actual Instagram?
Okay, so Instagram has changed now, right? So I do Instagram Live, and then the Instagram Live you can take now to IGTV. You can upload it to IGTV. And then now IGTV just rolled out this thing where it puts it in your feed. So it puts like the first 1 minute of that IGTV video in your feed, which can look ugly. I mean, it's not going to make the prettiest feed if your face is, depending on what you're saying, right? But so that's another thing, is to leverage the different layers, because now I'm excited, but I have to think about now how I start the video, because I need to get people's attention straight away. Because if I scroll through a feed and someone's going, "Hi, how are you?" I'm like, I don't have time. Yeah. I don't have time. So so social media is always changing, but I embrace it because I think I love change. So
I would say that there's a step before that, though. Just like you are tracking your hours every single day and you know exactly how much time you've spent on each project and so that you can bill properly, you should be tracking where your business is coming from. Every single project. I should be able to come into your design studio today and have the record for every client for the last year, where they came from. Because if you're not getting clients from Instagram, then you don't need to figure out how to make a fancy video on Instagram. I mean, you can do it if you've got extra time and you want to layer in so the client that is coming to you from a referral, or the client that is coming to you from Facebook, or the client that's coming to you through your blog can further get to know you, but you're not going to spend your days. And let's remember, Claire's client is you, right? Her client, you designers are on Instagram, but is your client on Instagram? And some clients are. But first know who your client is, know where they're coming from, and then go to that place. And it really might be, direct mail pieces. It might be your blog.
And don't forget being a local expert in your area. I mean, I go to my analytics on Google and I can see that people literally search Veronica Solomon or Casa Vilora interiors, and I'm like, I thought it would be interior designer in Katy, but they're searching my name. That's because they know who I am. So yeah, it's important to do those workshops or do those meet and greets. I'm not a big fan of networking, but I do a little bit of that. I do my charity work. I do things like that just so the local, because they're the ones who hire me. So I want people to know who I am.
I think we had a conversation about business yesterday over in the salon, and it felt like about 75% of the designers in the room got most of their leads through word of mouth. Who here is word of mouth as the biggest one? And who here is online sources, including House? Do you see that? But so much conversation that we're having right now is always around social media. How to optimize this, how to optimize that. But when we look into the room, most of you guys are dealing with analog referrals, with local outreach, with being out in the community, as you were saying. Do you find that true, Kim? Is that
100%? And the fact of the matter is, if I didn't have any social media, I would still have clients. But on social media, what I post are my travel pictures. Like I'm off to Australia next month, and that speaks to my clients. My clients lurk on Instagram, but they don't engage. So that works because I engage with Claire, and she goes, "Oh my God, have a great time," or "I'm coming to Texas. Hey, Veronica." But my clients are like, "Oh, she travels. I travel. I think we're friends," right? Versus I'm teaching design lessons on Instagram because my clients are not looking for that on Instagram. The number one best thing you can do for marketing is do a great job servicing the client you have right now. Make that client happy by having systems and procedures so the experience of working with you is amazing. It's a given that you do beautiful rooms. In fact, how many of you make beautiful rooms? It's not why we're getting hired. We're not. It's not why we're getting hired. We're getting hired because we do this really tough work that's hard to manage. It's like herding cats, right? And so someone's going to pay us to do that, so do it and make sure it feels like a great experience for that customer. And then have fun on social media doing whatever you want.
That lets me zoom right into the next thing. I want to talk about value proposition and how that needs to be very clearly established and how that affects your bottom line. So as a designer going forward, what do you have to think about in terms of the value that you're bringing to the project? We've already talked about, are you a glorified buyer? We know the answer to that one right now. I can see the faces. Like, I don't know, don't even say that. But what is the value proposition of the designer? How can we take, and what are the pillars of revenue and the pillars of value that designers need to identify and think about and cultivate?
I literally tell my clients that when you hire me, you don't have to lift a finger. And from the consultation, I'm sitting down, I'm telling them the gory details of what happens behind the scenes. So for them, that's the value I bring, is like, you don't have to worry about anything, and I tell them what they are avoiding when they hire me. And as far as the product sales and all that, I mean, I bring that in. For me, it's a part of the process. I'm acting as your designer, so I'm designing this project for you. I'm specifying exactly the right pieces that will fit your lifestyle and make sure that you live your best life in your home. So then I'm going to purchase these pieces for you and manage the whole process and bring it into your home, a full turnkey package. Like, why wouldn't you hire me? And clients eat that up. I have a lady right now I'm working with, and I think she finds reasons to hire me. I mean, as soon as I'm done with one project, okay, Veronica, can you like do this again? I'm like, okay, well, keep paying me. I'll keep doing it.
Is the focus, though, Veronica, for you your hourly rate, or is it still the product sales as well?
So I do both. So I make my hourly rate on the design through to the installation. I track my hours and everything, and I also sell the products and make my profit margins that way.
How do you track your hours? I just want to harp in on that a little bit. Are you really, and this is something, it was interesting, somebody made a comment yesterday. She's a realtor and a designer, and she said, as a designer, sort of all of my marketing approach is sort of fluffy. And as a realtor, we have all these analytics, all these stats. It's totally common practice that you put an ad out and you count the hits and you see how much feedback you're getting. And if it's not a good ad, then you rejigger your pictures and you get it back in the top. We're very strategic as realtors, and we're not strategic at all as designers. So I want to kind of think about that strategy. Are you guys really, really tough? How do you, I mean, is there a finger on a clicker saying, all right, I'm throwing in another hour? How do you do it to where it's realistic for you?
My work process is simple, where I'm focused on one project at a time. And I have my QuickBooks where I track my hours open. So in there I enter however many hours I just worked on this particular project. And I do that diligently. I also have my notepad on my phone. So if I took a phone call or I checked an email, I'll make a note in there, and then later on I'll go enter it into QuickBooks. So I'm always tracking every single hour. Now, there are times when it's just a little thing here and there, but for the most part, I am tracking everything and entering it. And in QuickBooks, you can track the project from all the expenses that go against that project, all the income that comes in. At the end of it, you can see your project profitability.
Can I just add to that, too, that it's really important that you track your hours, and when you're tracking them, you don't wait till the end of the week. You put them in the QuickBooks. I used to have, like, one of those books, you know, you get at, like, Staples, and it would be, like, 7, 7:15, 7:30, and I was like, who uses this? And I was like, I use this. I'm a little old school when it comes to tracking them, but then what I would do, because I can see what I do in a day, and I'll be like, oh, I was 15 minutes doing that, and because how often do we sit at our computer and, you know, you make that phone call to your contractor, or you follow up on a fabric order, and, you know, you look at the clock and it's 12 and you're like, I haven't billed anybody yet. That is a lot of money. And if you wait till the end of the week to bill, you're going to be like, oh, that was 5 hours, but I'll only charge them 3 because 5 seems like a lot. And now you just lost $200 or whatever you charge, right?
Amen. Yeah, for sure. Somebody who worked for me used to do is prepare her to-do list on her log sheet the night before she would go home. So tomorrow I have to phone this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, and then she would just add in the time afterwards. And her hours increased 50% when she started doing that, because she stopped ignoring those quick little phone calls, which are always 15 minutes, right? There's no such thing as a quick phone call anymore. It's always 15 minutes. And the other thing, even if you're doing flat fees, I run into this a lot through Business of Design, and we meet designers all over the world, literally. Some people think that if you're doing a flat fee, you're so lucky because you don't have to log your hours. If you don't log your hours, you don't know how much money you're making an hour, and you don't know if it's profitable. So you must develop the discipline to log every single minute. In the first book I ever wrote, which is all the foundations of Business of Design, I share a strategy that I learned from a client who was a lawyer who looked at our log sheets and laughed and said, I'm going to help you write log sheets that clients won't argue with. Doesn't that sound good? So he taught us how to write log sheets that a client would read and go, oh, okay, I understand what you did, therefore I will pay. So it's really important not just to log the hours, but to log them strategically with action words so that anybody looking on those log sheets would say, I totally understand why you had to do that. And you can't argue with that.
And just to add a little bit to what Kimberly just said, I mean, you tell the client this stuff from the very beginning. So if you tell the client, okay, you're going to be billed for phone calls and you're going to be billed for all of these things, when they get that invoice, they're not going to question anything. And in fact, my billing strategy is that you pay me everything up front, so we don't even bill. I don't do weekly billings or anything. You pay me my fee in 2 payments. So, but yeah, you still have to keep tracking just in case you go over that. But you really do have to log everything that you do. And then you can decide what you're going to give away, but you shouldn't give anything away.
Looking in that, again, at that next decade, you guys, you're not a designer. You came at this from WindowWorks, but the three of you did. And suddenly you became business mentors, strategists, speakers, coaches, whatever you want to call it. What do you recommend right now? And I think what has happened over the last decade is that a lot of people became bloggers, a lot of people became influencers in their own right, a lot of people are working with brands. Maybe, I don't know, do any of you guys work with brands that participated, like brand outreach events, travel up to Monogram, stuff like that? You guys need to do that. You learn a lot. Got to do that. But what kind of ancillary revenue streams are there? You've all built websites. Websites can be monetized. What going forward into this next decade? Is it just, I'm still just going to be designing and I'm just going to be charging design fees or design fees plus product sales? Or are there other avenues for you to monetize on your presence in the marketplace?
Well, I think it's going back to who your client is. I mean, you know, some packages that I may put together may not be packages that you put together for your Mercedes, you know, people that drive the Mercedes. You know, but because I will do a consultation only, or I will do, you know, the concept only design, and then I'll help people pick out their finishes or take it right from the start to finish with the decorating project. But when I have clients who maybe just want a consultation, I see the opportunity and I need to create this, you know, that maybe they don't want to go to the next level because they're more of a DIY, they want to figure out on their own, but they needed a little bit of a help to figure out. So maybe I'm like, hey, well, I can offer this package if you don't want to, you know, take it to the next level and have me manage your project, you know, but here's a package that I offer for $299 or $199, and it's the first, you know, 15 steps on how to decorate a living room. This is plan 1, this is step 1, this is step 2, you know, and I think that's happening already. Like, people are already doing that. You just have to know who your audience is and if you're okay with the fact that they're not going to hire you. And that doesn't mean that nobody's going to hire you because you offer that and they're not going to ever need custom design, because there's just such an array of clients and people out there.
I think that the other part of it is, again, it always comes back to be clear on who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it. There is an opportunity in this next decade and beyond to create income while you sleep and to sell packages and to work for 20 people at a time instead of 2 people at a time because you've sold them a package. But if it's not your cup of tea, don't feel pressured to come up with packages to sell while you're sleeping. Our primary business, WindowWorks, is never going to be a business model that we sell something to you that I haven't come to your face to sell it to you. It is a custom window treatment awning retailer. If I'm going to make you a beautiful drape, I gotta be there. If I'm gonna sell you a package drape, I'm not. That's the point. You could go buy that from Pottery Barn. I'm not competing with that. You know, I don't want to. I have no desire to figure out a way to put drapes in a package and ship them out. So it's do what you want to do, because if you came into this business to work one-on-one with consumers and make their homes beautiful, don't feel like you got to go and figure out this e-online business. Do it if you want to. I will create an e-online business for LuAnn Nigara, right? So it's what do you want? And lean into it and own it, and don't be intimidated and don't be pressured to come up with it because it's the next thing.
I wish LuAnn could come and make drapes for me. Every time I talk to you, I think, gosh, I wish I'd like to bring LuAnn to make drapes for me. The other thing I want to say is I've had okay, so first of all, I'm super old. I'm like 109. So when I'm telling you I've done all these things, it's because I'm older than you, so that's there. But I had 3 of my own series on HGTV Canada, and I'm on a television show every single month in Canada, like our Ellen DeGeneres version. I'm on that show. I'm well known. I don't get my clients from that. I get paid for that. It's really nice. But no matter what other revenue stream I've introduced, and I've sold sheets on HSN and TSC, which is the American and Canadian shopping channels, I've sold 50,000 sheets in a night, which is great. I've made money from those things, but I make real sustainable income from having design clients, selling that hourly rate, whether it's a flat fee or hourly, and getting a markup and a margin on every product and every trade I put in the house. So I don't want to underestimate, because sometimes, like LuAnn said, like there's so much emphasis on you should do this and this and this and this. Do it all, it's great. But really, truly, just know you can make your $1 million salary from just being an interior designer or a decorator. I don't even think there's a distinction there. Like there's tons of work, and it's ready for you.
What about you guys, though? I do want to harp a little bit on the e-com opportunities. Does it work? Does it make sense for you? I know you are selling online, right?
Yeah, so I sell information products. I'm consumer-based, and then, of course, to interior designers. And I started doing that a long time ago when the hustle was real. I mean, I had 2 kids to raise alone, and the economy was crazy, and I just started doing things that people could just buy from me without bringing me in for a full-service project. In fact, one of my biggest projects last year was an e-design client who hired me to come in and help her figure stuff out, and she ended up spending like over $100,000. So I get, real clients that way as well. For me, it's always been profitable to have that extra income coming in, because the huge projects don't come along every single day for me, and not in my market. They're wonderful when they come along, and so I recognized that right away, that I needed to create separate income streams so that I could always have income coming in. And it's nice to wake up in the morning and see that you have some money in your bank account that you didn't know was there. So I keep doing that, and I enjoy doing that.
And I want to just say the other thing, too, is if you're inclined to put packages together and sell things while you're sleeping, I have to say, I would be totally remiss if I did not. My Doma Studio has that set up for you. You don't have to go and hire a web developer and how do I make a card and, all of that crazy, complicated stuff, which I always say is the thing that this is such a great idea that turned into a project. It's like, darn it. Like, it just got so big, I'm not going to get it done. But if you are a MyDoma Studio user, you can create your packages in there, and you could literally do it this afternoon and start selling by tomorrow morning. So if that's your goal to do and to add to your ladder of services, it's an easy way to do it.
And you can then go back to your social media platforms and leverage them, right? We learned yesterday that all you need to have is 1 follower on Instagram to turn it into a shop, whereas Instagram stories take 10,000, but you can have a shop on Instagram and make every product that you sell visible on Instagram and link from Instagram and hashtag accordingly, so you really don't even have to have the followers. So that was kind of interesting to do it. And then Pinterest as well, right?
Right. And did you guys hear Sarah Lynn Brennan? She is from Waxhaw, North Carolina. She made a package on MyDoma Studio. First time she ever did it. She thought, let me try it. And called Romantic Transitional Bedrooms or something like that, right? I can't remember what it was called, something like that. In 2 days, she sold 66.
Stuff goes. And we have somebody in the audience down here too, Emily. Right, you told us the story yesterday of making some of the floor plans of your work and some of the finished packages available as a download on your site, and what, 25,000 bucks off of one house?
With 0 advertising.
No advertising. Yeah. So that's kind of, I think it's really important. I think one of the things that's very important for me to make you guys aware of, everybody's obviously on Facebook, yes? It's the thing that won't go away. Because all these ladies have Facebook groups that you can tap into and where you can connect after these talks and continue the conversation and ask the questions, because from our end we don't, but I see there's so many questions, and you guys all have thousands of members in your groups that people can tap into their own community and ask questions, because it seems like the answer is always in the room, right? What's a real challenge, like a real thing that you don't even have any idea how to tackle, is like super easy for the next guy, and they may have exactly the opposite problem that you can solve. So communicating online with this community of peers, I think, is really, really important, right?
And I think you also need to drill down, though. Like we talk about this with LuAnn and I. Sometimes there's a question thrown out there, and it's not like, you can't just you're like, I need more information. Like, are you new? How did this client find you? Did you manage their expectations? And almost everything goes back to managing their expectations. So anything that you kind of look at that goes wrong down the line, if they, are questioning your bill or they're not sure, that's because you probably didn't explain to them how you bill. You maybe were a little bit nervous about talking about, that's Kimberly calls it the green stuff. So almost everything that I look at when I go back and I review a project, if there was anything that went wrong, I'm like, that was because I maybe wasn't clear as I could have been at doing X, Y, or Z.
And Veronica, we learned yesterday from Leslie Carruthers, who was part of our conversation, that your website, veronicasolomon.com, you really take a lot of time to explain every single step of the way of what you're doing, and then buy now.
Yes. So after viewing my analytics, which is very, very important that you guys do that, I realized that a lot of my clients were up at midnight looking at my website. I even have something on my website where I can actually see people on my website. So if you're on there, I can see you guys. But Stalker?
Wait, in our pajamas, you can see us even, like?
I can see you, but I can see like the email or where you're from at least. I can see that. And so I looked at that and realized that my clients were looking for information at midnight when they're not going to call me. At least I hope they don't call me at midnight. And so I wanted to give it to them, and I wanted to make it convenient for them to pay me and book me to come out. Of course, I'm still going to call them and follow up once they've booked a consultation. But I get consultations booked all the time from clients at midnight, or 2 a.m. in the morning or something when I'm asleep. So I try to explain every little detail of what to expect, and of course, you follow up with a phone call and know all of this, but my website defines every little thing as much as possible. It's almost like an assistant for me. And maybe that's why I don't need an assistant all these years.
So the last question I had before we open it up to conversation is a little bit about this possibility of connecting with brands, too. Who here has a blog? Really? No more blogging. Look at you guys. Don't be shy. It's okay. Patty, you can fess up. But who here has an Instagram platform that's got some followers? All right. Okay. So, interesting thing. One thing to think about, or is blogging a thing of the past? I don't want to get too far into that. But if you are out on social media and you are a designer and you want a brand to know that you're working on a project using their products, and it's important that you let them know, because you buying that product is not going to tell the brand that you bought it, because that's a retailer or a distributor or a wholesaler. It's not the brand. They have nothing to do with each other. They may not even like each other. So that brand has no idea that you're like a loyal dude down here and you're just specking away and pushing away. They don't know that's happening. So to let them know, social media is a good idea, because so many brands want to know what your projects are and help you by elevating you through their platforms. Do you guys still feel like that's relevant in your business?
I blog. I like to. I think it's important for SEO, for one. I mean, it's nice to. And again, you don't have to do it weekly. It doesn't have to be something you're. Because really, sitting down and doing a blog, a lot of you are probably like, oh my god, I gotta do a blog. But for SEO, it's good. You want to use some of those keywords where people can find you. Like, I did a project in Toronto, Canada, and it was this, an interior design project, or using those words, decorator, design. And then when you tag the brands, or you link back to brands and you link back to their website, another thing like Veronica was saying was that you can look at your analytics and the brand, you can say to the brands, hey, look at how many people came from my website over to your website, so my followers are seeing what I'm doing and they're and then I'm getting eyeballs on you, is there another way that we can connect on the next project? So I do think blogging is still relevant. But I just think that, again, the panic, it's not like it's got to be every week. I think once a month is plenty. And make it valuable. Make it to be what people are coming to you for. What are people coming to you for? And be you.
I was just going to go back to the branding, whether it's worthwhile and you should consider it question, right? So the thing is, again, why are you doing it? Are you wanting to do business in your town, in your community, busy every day, 5 days a week, make your, a couple of $100,000 a year and be with your family? Then guess what? You don't need to connect with brands. But if you are interested in being noticed by brands and you are interested in that sort of platform, don't start too soon tagging and getting their attention if you're not quite ready. So when the brand, you tag that brand, you're like, hey, I used your signature kitchens, right? Your website better be in order. Like, your house has to be in order. Because they're going to come and they're going to say, oh, let me look over here. Like I say to you guys, I look at your websites. You start tagging me on social, start poking at me. Hey, I do this, I do that. I go looking. If your whole Instagram feed is your dog and your cat, and then I get to your website and your name isn't there, the town and the city that you live in isn't there, and the projects don't represent what you're saying over here on another platform it is. So if your goal is to be noticed and by brands and be an influencer, lock everything down first, then go out and knock on doors.
That is such a, that's so much.
That's a huge point, and not just if you want the brands. I think you're absolutely right. Under all circumstances, right? Yeah. Have your house in order, wouldn't you say? People will Google you, and it has to be, and we talked about it yesterday, so many people don't have their phone numbers on their website, or their location. What is that? It makes me crazy.
Or their name.
Yeah, it makes me crazy. People will search for kitchen and bath designer in, Princeton, New Jersey. You want to have, we do kitchen and bath design in Princeton, New Jersey, in there, because Google is stupid. Google has no way of knowing what you do unless you tell it, right?
Google is stupid. Hashtag Google is stupid. The only people I know who make money at brands are people who do it full time. And I mean, they're working it every day. They're taking pictures in exotic locations, and every single thing in the picture is tagged, and they're making real dollars. So I'm of two minds about that. I sort of feel like if we bought a product, named the product, I don't owe them advertising on my Instagram page, but maybe if you're looking to attract high-end customers and you're tagging Sub-Zero, maybe that makes sense for you. I don't know.
I think a lot of brands want to know about the projects that you guys are working on.
Sure.
The brand, again, can't come to you and say, hey, I'll give you a discount. Doesn't work, because they're not in the power to do that, because they have to go through their distribution chain. They have a deal with their distributors. They cannot break that. So they can't even discount it. But they can send you a photographer to shoot that project for you and work with you, help you get published, and if that's what you want. So there's that, and that's not being done anywhere near enough. The biggest question that I get is, can you show us designer who using our product? And I'm like, needle haystack, I don't know where they're at. Unless they go, hey, I'm right here, we have no way of knowing that. So coming from the brand side, I absolutely feel it's really, really important to let people know you're out there, you're doing what you're doing, have a voice. You guys all developed a voice for your own that brought you out of sort of the broad mass of this industry and made you stand out. If that's what you want, and to want to get that attention and to want to get something published, the brands are really, really keen on having that conversation. I'd love to. I know we have to open it up for questions. Do you guys have questions for us? And we had somebody with a mic. Oh, there we go. Can you come on over here? I was looking for Lily, and suddenly she disappeared on me.
Hi, ladies. I know LuAnn pretty well because I follow you on your podcast, but I don't know the others very well. And I was curious because listening to you and all that you do, and there's families probably there, can you give us a little insight of what your teams, or if you have a team, looks like? Because, I mean, I'm newer. I don't know how many out here are. It's just me right now, but, to grow and, what does that really look like? I'm just curious.
Okay, I'm the one with the mic. Okay. I do have a team. I have senior designers, junior designers. I have a financial administrator. I have a media person, and I have a totally separate business of design team staff. You don't have to have employees to have a team. You don't even have to have contract people helping you to have a team. You can be a team the first day you open your business by having another resource that's on your side. That could be a fabric company that you work with all the time. They're now part of your team. It could be LuAnn does your draperies. She's now part of your team. I talk a lot at Business of Design about being a we. Be a we, don't be a me. Little old me gets beat up in business all the time. But when I'm a corporate we and I have a contract that protects my interests and protects the interests of my clients as well, I can be that professional corporate we. That puts me where I need to be seen as that professional interior designer. Because that's one of the problems with the industry. Veronica mentioned earlier, like sometimes clients think they go to Pottery Barn, not to put Pottery Barn down, they're great, but they work with a designer at Pottery Barn and they think that's a designer. And that's not probably what we do. Right? Maybe that designer's great, but probably it's a person who sells furniture. My response when people say stuff like that is, oh yeah, my daughter did that one summer. Like, right? It's not the same thing. You're not dealing with the same thing. So outsource those tasks that you want help with. One of the most successful designers we know in Canada, his very first hire was a PR company. Not a junior designer, not a senior designer, not a bookkeeper. He hired a PR company. And the result is he's famous in a saturated, hugely saturated market for no other reason than he had enough money to hire that PR firm. So outsource, and the next person I would outsource someone to answer your phone, to sign up, consultations for you because you're probably not great at it. And then the third one I would hire is, or the second one I would hire is a bookkeeper, and I would bill the client for every minute the bookkeeper spends working on that project. So the bookkeeper shouldn't cost you money, it should make you money. So that's my experience of staff.
So you bill your hourly and you bill for your bookkeeper's time?
Every single person who works on the project bills for their time. And here's a really easy marker. If the client would have to do it, if you weren't hired, you bill for it. So what does that mean with a bookkeeper? It means if the bookkeeper's phoning to get an invoice for a sofa and to pay the invoice for the sofa, that's time a client would spend if you weren't on the job. The sofa doesn't matter. They don't walk into a showroom and go, I'll take it and leave. Right? There's paperwork, there's follow-up, there's tracking, there's shipping, there's movers. All of that is billable hours. 100% of it is billable hours.
I think the other thing, too, is when you outsource, like Kimberly's saying, and you hire, it's very similar to what you just said in terms of, when you hire an assistant, you can pay your assistant X amount down here, and then you're out there in the consultation, you're out on the site overlooking, and you're charging, up here. So if you're also running the errands and picking up the fabrics and doing that, you can't be managing you can if you're, working a lot. But, so, and then like Kimberly said, and then they're going to bill you for your time. So then you're going to bill the client for that time, right? When someone else is billing you, then it's easier to be like, oh, well, she billed me 5 hours. I got to bill the client 5 hours. Not like, oh, I'll eat that.
Can I just quickly add ×3? If you're paying an assistant $45 an hour, ×3 is what you bill the client. That's like a standard business. It's like,
I want to be your assistant. Just
done. Hired. Very hired.
That's a nice rate. Gosh.
×3,
Yes.
That's how it works in business school. The thing that bothers me about a design education is, where was my business training? I had a business teacher. First day of class, he raise your hand if you want to make money. And a few little hands go up, and he goes, well, you're in the wrong business. You're going to die broke and bitter like me. You'll be lucky to get a job teaching design, but let's go through the book now. That's how long ago I went to school that was going on, like 100 years ago. I don't think the business classes have gotten any better, and that is tragic, and it's really targeted at a career that is largely female. So I'm waking up, in my 50s to what it means. Where's the feminism played into this? Why wasn't I taught how to run a business? That's absurd, and it's obscene. And every time you outsource part of your work to another third-level company, you're losing profitability. So just so you know, every time you hire someone else to take some of that dirty little paperwork off your plate, someone says, don't worry, you don't have to work so hard. Let us do all the paperwork for you. They're making money on you. It's fine if you know that, but just know that. Let's get empowered. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Right here, we should have $1 billion. I don't think we do, right? Like, let's start stepping up and taking the piece of the industry that should belong to us now. Let's get serious now.
I like that.
Yeah.
You guys ready to get serious? Who else has questions? There's one right back over there.
Yes, ladies. I'm not an interior designer, but I am a builder in my market, and I'm not really on social media yet. And is that something that I really need to step up and do, like the Instagram, you're saying the Facebook? Is that something you would recommend me to do to get out there more so people know who I am? I mean, I have my business cards and word of mouth, obviously, but what do you think of that?
I mean, I go back to what I said before. How many years are you in business, sir? 7? Do you know where each of your clients have come for the last 7 years? How you do have that track somewhere? Okay, that's the first thing, right? Seriously, that's the first thing. Start tracking it and then lean into that. If the clients are coming from trade shows, if the clients are coming from realtors, if the clients are coming from designer referrals, that's where you're going to lean in.
I think it's also important to be committed to showing your work. As a builder, you want to get more eyeballs on the projects that you're working on, and social media will play a role in that. So having a portfolio somewhere will, your website obviously, but sharing them out there will, I think, will drive some traffic to you.
I have to throw in Google Local. You've got to have that filled out. You've got to get your referrals on Google Local. What happens if people are looking for a contractor of whatever it is you do in your town? The first thing they're going to see is that top tier of that page. That's guaranteed to you if your information is filled in correctly and you have a lot of great referrals and hopefully 5 stars. Right? Yeah. And that's social media too. I mean, it's digital media at least. So, and then...
And partner with an interior designer. So you'll have beautiful finished photographs, because sometimes builders' photographs and architects' photographs look 80% great, but an interior designer would make it 100% great. And then tag the designer. Like, how about credit for the designer? So often the photographer gets credit, but the design, like, how many times have I seen a photographer use an image of mine and I'm nowhere to be mentioned? I'm like, we're starting to send legal letters from lawyers saying, take it down or tag us. Like, we're done talking. Like, now, like, let's start giving credit where it belongs.
And you're leading a design revolution. I like where you're going with this whole thing.
I'm going to wear flats for that. I'm not wearing heels.
Okay, one last question if you guys have it. Over there. All right, there's 2.
Hi there. I wanted to ask you a question about the e-design. And I assume you're talking about passive income, not designs where someone hires you and you're designing something where the work is then afterwards. You're saying you have packages on your sites where people can do it and they're just getting something pre-canned, sort of?
I think it could be, there's 2 different, there's 2 different areas for that. So like you could have someone contact you and they want you to design a space specifically for their space, and they want to, you're getting the dimensions, you're finding out all those questions that we need to ask clients right from the beginning, and then you're actively working on that project. But then, like Emily mentioned yesterday, she was getting a lot of interest in a couple of her specific projects because she does beautiful work. And so she put together a package that was like, this is, you were explaining a little bit yesterday, but about like, this is where you get this farmhouse light fixture, this is where you get this, and then she links to all of that. And so it's 2 different things. And again, it's 2 different clients. The type of client that wants to go and do it themselves, and the type of client who may be in California or in Australia and want to hire you because they saw what you did on on social.
And e-design is not a cheaper way of doing design work. E-design is basically, because I know a lot of designers who are trying to compare themselves to Havenly or some of those online stores, but it is just the client is hiring you for a part of your process. They're paying you just for the work that you put into it, the design work, and they're not hiring you to manage the whole project. So you should still be charging what you would normally charge for the design work. And so that's what e-design is for me. It's not passive income. I'm actively engaged in developing a design plan and then giving them a shopping list that they can go and source those items themselves.
And what I was talking about was the packages. That is passive. Okay. And that is not specific to that client. That's like, take this guest bedroom beach scene package. It's this headboard, this sofa, whatever.
Okay, I wasn't sure you were all talking about the same.
And I was going to say, too, don't underestimate how much work that is. Yeah. Like, that is a lot of work. And we took on one about a year ago. Someone contacted us. They saw on Pinterest a built-in that we had done. They're like, we want a built-in done for our space. It's not really, my forte. But I was like, oh, okay, sure. We'll do this. It'll be fairly easy. Like, I underestimated how back and forth, then the contractor was like, no, this isn't, and then he had to come back to me, and then she had to, it was just, I actually did not enjoy that.
It's a real project.
It's a project. So don't underestimate ever. Everything always takes longer than it seems, whether it's writing a blog, doing a project, everything takes twice as long as you think it will.
We have to wrap because I'm getting the sign. I'm getting the cutthroat sign. Now she's here, Didn't get introduced, but we get kicked out. But very quickly, where can people reach you? KimberleySeldon.com?
KimberleySeldon.com is my interior design website. BusinessOfDesign.com and Business of Design podcast is where you'll find me.
And Claire?
ClaireJefford.com is both my interior design and my business strategy coaching website. YouTube, Claire Jefford, and Claire Jefford Coaching. At Instagram. And that's it. Oh, and in our groups. So if you guys want to join some great groups, Interior Design Business Strategies is my Facebook group. It's free. There's 3,300 people in the group all over the world. It's IDBS, where there is no BS.
So my group is What They Don't Teach You in Design School, and you can reach me at VeronicaSolomonUniversity.com. Yes, I own a university. And you can also reach me at VeronicaSolomon.design.
And I am at LuAnnNigara.com. The podcast is A Well-Designed Business. The Facebook group is LuAnn Nigara and Friends. And you can get on the email list by texting DesignBiz to 444-999.
Wow, they have their act together. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you.
Woohoo!
Thank you.